We're live.
We are live. Hello, Facebook. We are live for another wellness workshop. Can you take a sip so I can talk? So today's talk is called Change Your Mindset, Transform Your Life. Some of you guys are newer to the practice, so we're using this opportunity to expand on your knowledge because, as you could see in the first half hour, 45 minutes of us meeting you, we can't share every single thing that we want to share with you. So we use these opportunities during these workshops to give you a little bit more understanding of the why behind what we're doing here. Because there's a lot more than just symptomatic relief. If you haven't already seen in this office with what's around here, we do our care a lot more than just symptom relief. So today is more about the way we think and then how we're going to change your posture in a way that's going to transform your life. So I want to start off first by talking a little bit about health, because health is really what we're here for. As much as some people came in here for a neck pain or a back pain or something like that, our bigger picture and our bigger goal is how do I become the healthiest that I could be? Because everybody always wants to know that. So in order to get to that understanding, we need to really have a conversation about health, because health in this, unfortunately in the world, is very loose in its terms. Not many people really understand the true meaning of health. And first off, what do you think the one thing that's holding a lot of us back from our healthcare goals, what do you think that one thing is? Some of you guys that may have been here already try to hold back the answers. But what do you think is holding us back from a lot of our healthcare goals, where we may not even realize that it's holding us back? What do you think?
Time.
Time, okay. It could be something that holds us back, but there's something deeper.
Pain.
Pain is something that drives us to get in, but is pain a driver to wanting to change your health, or is it pain a driver to wanting to get out of pain?
Could be both.
Could be both, you're right, depending on something that I'm trying to get you to say. And I'll give you a hint, it's in the title of the talk that I said. Our mindset. Because our mindset is what's going to shape the decisions that we make about our health and wellness. And when I say our mindset is what shapes that, it means what we believe health is about. And would you agree that most of the people in this world is unhealthy? Would you believe that to be true? We live in a world that's unfortunately more sick than healthy, more overweight than in shape, eating worse more than eating well. So we live in this world that unfortunately we're not the healthiest that we can be. And the driver to that is our thought pattern of what health is all about. Because if you were to describe, if somebody just came up to you and just said, what is health? How would you define it? How would you say it? I don't mean to point you out, but you did say pain.
I guess if you want to say health, I mean, as far as it could be cardiovascular health, you could be going to the gym, eating healthy, just a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, so that's great. Do you think everybody's living a healthy lifestyle?
No, absolutely not.
So the mindset is not matching the actions. So they might be able to say, yeah, according to the book of health, it's about living a healthy lifestyle, but then now let's talk about the actions that you've been taking. Okay, well, do you eat well? Sometimes. Do you go to the chiropractor regularly? Nah, I've never been to a chiropractor, I'm afraid of them. Do you see a massage therapist for tight muscles? No, I don't need that. Or if I do, it's only when I'm in pain. Do you see an acupuncturist, because that's more natural? No, I'm afraid of needles. Do you go to the doctor? Yeah, only when I'm sick and I only get a medication. Only go if I need medication. So that cycle of lifestyle is only going to put you down a road towards more sickness and disease rather than towards a road for health and wellness. Do we agree? So the mindset is what's going to drive your decisions on what is going to be the best decisions for you to improve your health. Now, when I say mindset, I could also say our definition of healthcare. Because most people, you guys are here, so you guys are more unique than other people because you've actually took the step of saying, I want to come to a chiropractor, and I'm even going to listen to what he has to say to me about health. So you guys are already unique compared to most of the world. But Do you think most of the world thinks that if you don't have a symptom, you're not in pain, I don't have a headache, I'm not sneezing all over the place, I'm not throwing up, so I must be healthy? Do you think people can actually think that?
Sure.
But can they have that scenario and unfortunately die of a heart attack the next day?
Yep.
So it's really not about the way we feel about what healthcare is about. So if it's not about the way we feel, how could you gauge whether you're healthy or not? That brings me to some of my questions. So that's the big question right there. What is health? So if health is not about the way we feel, how do you know whether you're healthy or not?
You have to look on the inside of you.
So you got to look at the inside of you. So how could you look at the inside of you without being a superhero?
Blood test.
So you can do a blood test. That's one way of doing it. A blood test will give you a snapshot of that moment of what's going on in your body. Because you could get a blood test at one moment and numbers are off. You get blood. So it's just a snapshot. So it is a great way to do it, but it gives us one diagnostic tool. So blood test is one of them. What's another thing you could do?
X-ray.
So you could do an x-ray. If something is spine related, we could do an x-ray. You know, and we recommend x-rays on everybody because you have to see what the posture looks like in order to understand how to fix the things that we're trying to work on. So an x-ray is a great thing. What if you go to the medical doctor and you just want to get a physical? What are some tests they do for you besides a blood test?
The blood pressure?
Blood pressure. Awesome. What does that test? What is blood pressure like check?
Hypertension.
So it checks to see if you have hypertension, but it's checking the efficiency of your heart. How many pumps does it need to get the blood through the body? So obviously there's a high blood pressure and there's a normal blood pressure and there's even a low blood pressure. So that's one way, and that's checking the efficiency of the heart. What's another thing that they do to you sometimes? That is also related to the heart, but it's not blood pressure.
Oxygen content.
Well, they do that too. But with the oxygen content sometimes comes a pulse reading, your resting heart rate. So that's another thing that's going to test the efficiency of your heart. So now all of a sudden you're seeing these tests come up. And what are those tests checking in your body? What can we call that? How your body's, what's the word we can use? Functioning. That's the word I'm looking for. So those tests are testing the way your body's functioning at that moment. So if you're at the moment getting a blood pressure test and it comes back, say, 150 over 100, you know at that moment in time you have a high blood pressure, so your heart is not functioning at its best. If you get a blood test and they check your cholesterol or they check your blood sugar and your blood sugar is high, you know that you have an unstable blood sugar. So those are different tests that you can use to check function. So let's take a step back and go deeper. If our body needs to function at its best, first of all, let's step back one more time. So let's talk about the actual definition of health, which is according to the World Health Organization. So the actual the World Health Organization actually defines health as, let me go this way, defined as complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Even in big letters it says not merely the absence of disease and infirmity. So even the World Health Organization says it's not about the way you feel. It's about how you function in all areas of your life. So when we keep bringing up the word function, we have to talk about one thing, and that is what system in your body controls every other system of the body, i.e. controls the function of your body. So your brain, everybody always says that. So if you talk about the brain, we also have to talk about the extension of the brain, which is called the spinal cord. We call that entire system the nervous system. So your nervous system is controlling all of your body function. So if that is controlling all of your body function, isn't it important that we care for that system on a regular basis? How could you care for your nervous system on a regular basis?
Make sure your spine is correct. And
Make sure your spine is correct. Where did that genius idea come from? Besides some of the education we gave you here. But why would the spine have anything to do with your nervous system? So our creator is very smart. They protected the brain, and he or she protected the spinal cord by two things. One, the skull. Two, the spinal cord. The spinal column. So your spinal column is the protective covering over your nervous system, brain and spinal cord. So because it's there to protect it, because that's how important it is. So you want to make sure that that spine is not negatively affecting the spinal cord. So if you have a proper position of the spine, the way the body controls itself is we have this really cool nervous system that has a brain up here. Now this is just one aspect of the nervous system. There's a lot more to this. I'm just going to use one aspect. So we have a brain here that sends a signal, let's call it energy. That energy goes down the spinal cord, out the spinal nerves that come out of here, and those spinal nerves control every aspect of your body. They control your heartbeat. They control your digestion. They control the movement of our body. They control the sensations of our body. That nervous system controls every aspect of you. So we have this spine that protects it. So it would only make sense that you want to have as little stress on that spine as possible. And unfortunately, we live in a world that, number one, is very technologically advanced. Meaning, what are we on every day? Cell phones, computers, iPads, you name it. It's putting our bodies in more of a position where we're down rather than up. The problem is most bodies and most spines like to be in an upright position because now the stresses of life and gets distributed evenly through the body. So that is why it's so important to care for your spine. So now we have this spine that needs to be in proper posture. So we call it in the office abnormal posture. When the spine is not in the correct position, we call it abnormal posture. You'll hear it in some chiropractic offices as a subluxation. Subluxation is a misalignment of the vertebrae that puts stress on the nerves, affecting the way the body functions. But we use the conversation of posture because most people understand the language of posture over the language of subluxation. It's just the way we do it in our office. There's a million ways of talking about it. So we talk about posture, and we're correcting the abnormal posture that we see. So in order to understand what abnormal is, we have to talk about what normal is, correct? So we already know there's a normal blood pressure, 120/80, or somewhat around there. So if you get a blood pressure test that says 150/100, you know it's high. Our normal heart rate should be between 60 and 90. If you get a heart rate monitor or a heart rate test and your resting heart rate is 85 to 90 to 95, you know it's a resting heart rate that's high and you're overworking your heart every day. So now that we know those abnormals, we have to know what the normal position of the spine is. So that's what we use, and the best way to see how the spine is misaligned is looking at posture. So posture from the outside tells us what's going on the inside. And then we use the x-rays to confirm that. So I don't just use posture as an analysis because, believe it or not, posture could also play tricks on you. Because, for instance, let's first talk about what normal posture is, and then we'll go into some abnormals. So from the front of the spine, this is our posture. This is our perfect posture model. If you drew an imaginary line down the middle of the body, everything should be straight. It makes sense. Everybody, if you talk about posture, how should your spine be? My spine should be straight. They know it consciously, but they're usually not working on it. So from the front of the spine, everything should be straight. Middle of the the middle of the head should be lined up with the middle of the chin here, and then straight down the middle of the sternum, pelvis, right to the middle of the feet. That should be where the body is. So this posture would be more normal than this posture, correct? So this posture that we sometimes see is what's called a scoliosis. Some people have that in their spine. Sometimes you have a perfect posture from the front view, but we also have to talk about the side view of the posture. So when we look at posture here, again, our perfect spine model, we have the middle of the ear should be lined up with the middle of the shoulders, hip, knee, and ankle. So this posture would be more normal than this posture. But how many people walk around like this? A lot of people. So that is what we're concerned with in chiropractic, especially in this office. So when you have somebody that walks into the office and their posture's like this, that's what we're going to work on. That person typically will have symptoms, so thankfully, the symptoms are just a signal that the body gives you to let you know that there's stress in the body, but that's not the reason why you want to get treated. The more important thing is fixing the abnormal position that's causing the pain in the first place. Because pain comes and goes. I mean, we know it. How many people in this room has had pain before they came to our office and that pain went away? I mean, I've had it. Everybody. So you do know pain comes and goes. But the abnormal structure is what's driving that's being ignored. And that's what we're here to educate you about. So now that we understand what normal posture is, we can start talking about what abnormal posture is. So now that we know that that's the right position. So let's show really quick. This is a cool video. I have to just change the... Hold on, I just got to change the way this looks here. So I'm going to show you what happens to your posture over time. Where is that video? Video. Sorry about this. Okay. There it is. Okay. Of course, it's going to take its time. There we go. All right, so this guy is our normal posture. So what happens over time? So we start to lose that normal head posture, head comes forward. Then all of a sudden the stress of gravity starts to compress us. So what happens? We start to round our shoulders. And then all of a sudden we're walking around where gravity's beating us up more than helping us. And we start walking around like this. How many people see this in people's lives? And how many have grandparents and mothers and fathers that look like that? And that's not age related. It's stress related. Because aren't there people, so that person that was like this looked like they were in their 70s, 80s, whatever you want to say. But aren't there 70s and 80-year-olds that have posture look like this? So it's not age dependent. It's actually stress dependent. So the abnormal position causes the spine to break down, and then stresses of life and gravity cause it to break down even more. So this type of thing occurs because of abnormal posture over a long period of time, not because the person's aging. You guys got that distinction? Because that's a very big distinction. Because people just say, oh, I'm just, as I get older, my posture is just going to get bad. Well, you are correct about that if you're not correcting the posture in the first place. But that's not happening because you're aging. Because the aging is the most important, or the least important thing of that whole process. The most important thing is, do you have the proper position or not? Does that make sense, everybody? That's very important to understand. So now we know what that looks like from the outside. But now let's look at what happens from the inside. Because I say the posture is the window to the spine. So now we have, make sure this is going good, yeah. So now we have a person that is having that forward head posture, they start losing that curve. Once that curve gets lost, gravity takes over, and it starts to compress the spine. If it's not corrected, or it's not addressed, what happens is the discs start to degenerate because of that stress, and it's like squishing that disc, and the bones start to change shape because the body's saying to itself, I have stress on it right now that I can't take right now. So the discs are getting compressed so much that I have to put something there that's stronger than that disc so it will withstand that stress. So what it chooses to do, instead of having the disc get compressed, it builds more bone so that it could withstand that stress. That's what most doctors call arthritis, but the abnormal position for a long period of time is what's driving that. You get that? So we want a neck that looks like this, a good curve that goes backwards like a C. You don't want a neck that is flexed forward like this, rounded and compressed. And when you see it on an image, it makes sense. But when you're talking to people around, I can't tell you how many people I talk to. I did go do spinal evaluations or posture evaluations at local businesses. And I'll go to somebody, hey, you want to get your posture checked? Oh, no, I know my posture's bad. It's literally what they say to me. I'm like, well, shouldn't you know what it looks like so we could fix it? No, it's okay. Like, they don't see the connection between abnormal posture and what it does to the health. But that's what we're trying to get you aware of is abnormal posture 100% has negative effects on your overall health. And if you don't fix that, well, then you're going down a road towards sickness and disease. Regardless if you work out every day, regardless if you eat the right foods. If you're degenerating this way, I don't care how healthy you are, you're going to degenerate in a more negative fashion than positive fashion. Make sense?
Could you show us the other one before this?
The posture one?
The bad posture
Sure.
spine picture again?
Sure.
No, the inside, just the bones.
Oh, just the X-ray one.
Yeah,
Sure.
because I didn't really
Sure, let me,
know what was what when you started.
let's start it from the beginning. Okay, so here we go. So first off, let's talk about this. This picture right here It's not the clearest picture, but this is normal posture from the side view of the spine. So see how there's a nice smooth curve going backwards like a C? That's normal posture. And if I was to draw a line from here straight up, see how the ear is properly aligned with the shoulder? Normal posture. Again, that posture, ear over shoulder. Then you could see how these black things in here, those are your discs. Those discs are supposed to be a good, nice, strong, chunky disc. They're not meant to hold excess weight. And the vertebrae are all supposed to be squared in shape. That's a normal view. So when you have normal posture and you don't have stress in that, you can actually have this posture throughout a lifetime. Unfortunately, when we start to lose that posture, we start to have our head come forward, we start to have our head flex forward, our shoulders start to flex forward. Now all of a sudden we lose that proper position and that process occurs. So now, let's show you what you see. So the first process that typically happens, we start to lose the curve. So see how it's straightening out? So now when you have a straight spine, you start to compress the spine. Now, the discs here that we just talked about, see how they're getting squished? And now that they're getting squished, it almost looks like the neck is shrinking. Because it's not shrinking, it's just getting compressed. So did you ever notice that some people, as they age, they get shorter, quote unquote? But they're not getting shorter because they're aging, they're getting shorter because they're going like this. But most people don't think that way. They just think, oh, I lost 3 inches. Why the hell are you losing 3 inches? You're never supposed to lose 3 inches. But if your spine is compressing, you could easily lose 1 inch or 2. So does that clear it up for you?
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. I want everybody to understand why we're doing what we're doing. There's a lot. It's very important. Okay, cool. Let's go back to our dinner talk. Okay, so. Okay, we got the X-ray one. Good. All right. So we're not going to go over this. So what I want to talk about next is more about what we do to fix this. You know, so our office specializes in the type of care that corrects this, and some of you are already experiencing it. But in order to fix this, you have to do a little bit more than just adjust the spine. Some chiropractors use adjustments to treat their patients, but how we treat it is we do adjustments, but we also add additional rehabilitative exercises and stretches. So we do a postural stretch we call traction. Some of you guys have experienced it already. We do postural exercises that are going to retrain the muscles. So the adjustment is for the joints. You know, so we have these abnormal positions, our postures like this. So those joints are not going to move the way they're supposed to. So we put you on the table, we do a general adjustment to get those joints moving better. But those joints are still in this position even when they're more mobile. So we have to retrain the muscles, i.e. exercise, to bring the body back to that normal position. So you may do exercises with the bands that we have on the wall. We have some neck exercises that we do with our patients. Those are going to retrain the muscles to remember that posture. Then we're going to do a stretch we call traction. That's going to stretch the ligaments, because the ligaments are holding the bones in place. So you got to get the muscles to move the bones, you got to get the ligaments to stretch so they deform to that shape. And that's the stretch that we put you in. So it could be in an extension traction like this, where your head's like this. If you have a scoliosis, it could be putting you in the opposite position like this. If you have a lower back problem, that you have a loss of curve there, we put you on the machine that pulls you forward like this to put that curve in there. So everybody is going to be having a different postural rehab program based on their postural abnormalities. But that's what we do in our office, and we do that on a regular basis, and we do an x-ray to show you changes, and we've had some great changes in the office. But that's why we do what we do, and it's not because we want you here 3 times a week for 3 months for the heck of it. It takes that much time to correct the spine. If it's taken you sometimes 20, 30, 40, 50 years to get to where you're at, and we're asking you to commit to, even at the higher end, 1 year of care, isn't that a fair deal? I could fix your spine in 1 year that you've been destroying for 20 years. It's a pretty fair deal, I think. But some people have a hard time committing to 2, 3, 4 months, 6 months of care, and when I try to let them understand that, they don't understand it because they don't understand the background of what we just learned tonight, which is why I put together these type of talks. Because I can't explain what I just explained to you in a half hour on every single person, because then every single exam is going to be an hour and a half long, and who has time for that? And be able to treat the rest of you. So we use these opportunities to set up these Tuesday workshops to do that. And each week we have a different topic. Some of them are going to be similar topics, but all in the same realm of number one, we always want to talk about posture and fixing abnormal posture, but then number two, we got to talk about what you're putting in your body, what you're thinking about, different disorders, giving you a better understanding. Like next week, we're talking about diabetes. It's a very big personal one to me I'm going to talk about. We'll talk more about it next week. But diabetes is a killer. It's the top 3 or 4 killers in the world. And there's not enough understanding of what's causing it. That's why so many people have it. They just think that if I take my insulin or if I take my my blood sugar lowering drug, that I'm fine. But that's driving a bigger problem. So we're going to talk about that next week. So I don't want to take up much more time. I'd rather you talk to me and see if there's any questions or comments or anything that you believe that I may have not touched on that you would like to know. Anybody? I couldn't have gave a perfect presentation. You got to at least have something. There's no such thing as a perfect presentation. But, I mean, does this give a better understanding on why we're asking you to do what you're doing? Okay, good. That's good to know. Because we want to,
a question for you. It's kind of personal, but
are you okay with sharing that in front of the group? Okay, good.
My discs are kind of
compressed, yes.
Compressed, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously, I got arthritis. So.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, you can correct my posture anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I know you can't really correct the discs, but it will still benefit me as far as posture and...
Yeah, so there's actually some... What's the word I'm looking for? There's no research that shows that you can regenerate the discs. There's no research that shows you can't regenerate the disc. I have personally seen on some x-rays, if you take the stress off of the disc, it does show some changes. Are you going to get back to the normal disc you're supposed to have? No. But it does show less compression. It does show an improvement because you're going to have a more normal curve, so there's more nutrients and fluid going into that disc that it could regenerate somewhat, but I wouldn't say you're going to get back the disc you had when you were in your younger ages. So, but you're much better off correcting that posture and even having a little stress on the disc than just leaving it alone and just letting it destroy even more. So yes, I have seen a couple x-rays where it looked like it was really compressed, and then we took the stress off and all of a sudden there was a little bit more of a joint space. But I would never say, yes, you're going to regenerate all of your discs back to normal. I can't say that. But I could say you're a heck of a lot better having a good posture than having a bad posture and letting it destroy it more. Okay? So thanks for sharing that.
How about moving out to like your shoulders or knees? I mean, you know.
So typically, any problems that we have with shoulders or knees, you obviously have there was one aspect that could be a traumatic injury. Like you got hit in a sporting event and you hurt your knee. But the other thing that could be occurring with shoulder issues, knee issues, hip issues, is it could be from the source of the problem, which could be the spine. So the nerves that come out of the lower part of the spine, or the lumbar spine, go into our hips, knees, and legs. The nerves that come out of the lower part of the neck go into our shoulders, arms, and hands. So if we have an abnormal posture or stress in the neck or lower back, that could put stress on the nerves going into the shoulders, arms, and hands, hips, knees, or legs. So sometimes the symptoms we feel in our extremities, we call it, could be a source from the spine as well. So that's why we look at the source first, but then we also ask questions. Have you ever had any traumas? You ever injured the shoulder? Because that's important to know as well. We don't just ignore anything that could have probably traumatically happened. But we do say, let's look at the source first. Let's start making some changes on that and see if that takes stress off of those nerves. Because if it does, you could see symptomatic change. If it doesn't, then we could say, okay, well, let's look at the shoulder a little bit more. Look at the knee. You know, do we need an MRI? Do you have, you know, a rotator cuff tear? Do you have some ligament damage or meniscus tear? And that's something that would be a further evaluation that we might need an MRI. But we would always start at the spine and work our way off from that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. People understand the spine and the nervous system when you start talking about like electrical breakers. Like right there, there's an electrical box. That's the source of all the energy, quote unquote, light energy in this place. So if anything trips in that box, you know, one of the breakers trip, well then that source is going to be affected, right? So if the breaker trips and these lights go off, there's multiple things that could cause a light to go out. But first, let's go to the box, make sure nothing tripped. If nothing tripped there, okay, well, nothing's tripped there, so let's go to the light bulb. Let's see if the light bulb needs to be changed. It's another source of a problem. If the light bulb, you change the light bulb and it's still not turning on, well, let's go to the light switch. So it's just looking at different ways of doing it, but let's first go to the electrical box, quote unquote, which the human electrical box is your spinal cord. Does that make a little bit more sense? When you talk about it like that, people like they're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. But our energy source, our quote unquote, our electrical box is our spinal cord, and that's what's controlling every aspect of your body. So let's always look at that first, and then work to other areas.
It kind of makes sense because, quite frankly, when you break down the physical human body, we are basically a chemical, electrical, being.
Mm-hmm.
Then that electrical source or that energy source is like a powerful generator which generates all the electrical impulses out into all the muscles and organs and things of that nature. And when you don't have a correct spinal cord or that, for instance, compresses on some of those nerves, then you start to realize that the body itself is a major electrical chemical powerhouse.
Yeah, we call it an electrical highway. We're literally a bunch of hundreds of thousands of miles an hour of energy going through us. And a lot of it is automatic. We don't ever have to think about digesting our food. We don't ever have to think about making our heart beat. We don't ever have to think of making our lungs expand and decompress. So our body has the ability to do that. But when you start doing things that negatively affect that, like you start taking certain drugs that change the way your body functions, or you take certain drugs that change the way your body feels, i.e. like an anti-inflammatory or a pain reliever, that gets rid of the symptom, but it never corrects the problem. We're more about getting to the source of the issue and correcting it, rather than getting to the surface problem or issue and saying, let me put something on that or a Band-Aid to get rid of that. That's the difference between, allopathic medicine and chiropractic. We're more about getting to the source and correcting it. They're more about what's your symptom? Okay, let's get rid of that symptom. Two great professions. I don't badmouth the medical profession. There's a time and place for it. But I think the way that we're addressing it, where you're getting to the source of the problem, is more of a longer lasting, healthier route that actually, guess what, could save you money in the long run. As you age, doesn't it get more expensive to stay healthy? Because now you start getting these diseases and these malfunctions, and all of a sudden you have to get these surgeries and you have to go get all these medications and certain like that. Where if you just take care of your body now, you don't have to get to that level, and you could save quote unquote money for the things that are more important to you, like spending time with family, grandkids, kids, etc. That should be more of the driving force. Not that, right now I feel fine, so I just have to ignore everything that's going on. So that's what we're trying to share with you guys, and we're Facebook, we're on Facebook, so hopefully some people get that message and see the importance of what we're doing as well. And it's not just our office, this is chiropractic as a whole. We would prefer you to do corrective care, chiropractic, but any chiropractor is a great chiropractor. It's just their approach might be more different. So we're not saying only this office is the only office you should go to. Although if you want to come in, everybody's welcome, obviously. But we can't take care of every person in the world. So that's what we're here for. I'm happy that you guys took your time out of your night for a 35-minute explanation of the importance of the spine and nervous system. And I ask that you guys go and share this with your families, share this with your friends, because I'm sure every one of you could come up with, even if you just came up with one person that you say, what I heard makes me think of my brother, my sister, my mother, my aunt, my uncle. I'm going to tell them to come next time. I won't tell them get under chiropractic care. Just come to the next talk. Let us share a little of the information that we have. This talk that we're doing, we're going to do every other week. So it's a talk that you could bring people to, in addition to the other talks we're going to do about other disorders and eating well and thinking well. But yeah, share this information with your friends and family. Everybody's welcome to this, so I wouldn't mind filling this entire room with everybody and being able to share this with every single person that I can. But that's the message we're trying to share. In a nutshell, care for your spine. It's the most important thing. Any final questions or comments? Because if not, we can wrap this up. Excellent. Facebook, see you next time. Thank you, sir.
Great talk.
Thank you.